Welcome to Design ADAC Day 2. We're so happy to have you. I'm Katie, the General Manager here at ADAC. I'm sure everyone has a copy of this event guide, but if you don't, make sure you pick it up. Of course, it has all of our events that are going on this week, but tonight we are celebrating our Southeast Designers and Architect of the Year finalists for a party at Logan Gardens. So if you want to meet all of the finalists for this year's award, please come join us tonight, and the event details are in this event guide. And of course, there's some other really good pieces of information in here, including a list of all of our new showrooms here at ADAC and our look back at last year's winners of the Southeast Designers and Architect of the Year Award. So check everything out in this event guide. Also, have some fun with us on social media this week. Our hashtag is DesignADAC. Our handle is at ADAC Atlanta. And we have all of the speakers, our showroom sponsors, and our media partners' handles in this event guide. So tag everyone. Have some fun. We will reshare. We love seeing all the fun that you're having during this week. I want to thank Kim Regas with Regas Interiors for our stage decor this market. Everything has been sourced from ADAC, so if you are interested in anything on stage, go check out the resource list at the back of our presentation room. And I want to say a very special thank you to our showroom sponsors today. That's Milieu, and we will go upstairs after this lovely panel presentation today for a reception in the Milieu showroom, and you got to check out all of these gaming tables. They are amazing. I want to thank our media sponsor, that's Georgia Design. We have magazines in everyone's chairs, so be sure to take home that issue. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Editor-in-Chief, Fran Worrall.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. I'm Fran. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Georgia Design Magazine. We were formerly Atlanta Magazine's home. We rebranded in January, and we're trying to kind of reach a little more of the state. And so today's topic is kind of near and dear to my heart because for this will be the fourth year that we have had we have sponsored the Georgia Design Awards. And the awards every year have grown. Last year we had more than 350, I believe, submissions, and we've added more and more categories every year. So the title of our presentation is Award-Winning Design and Showcasing Projects for Maximum Impact. There are ways to, enter a competition that we're hoping the designers today will shed a light on what kind of projects capture a judge's attention, and then after you win an award, how you can capitalize on that to gain more publicity or to maybe get new clients, things of that nature. So I'm really thrilled to be here today. I want to thank you all for coming, and I'm really happy about my panel today. I have a great group of people, all of whom have won first place, and some in multiple categories in the last year or two for the Georgia Design Awards. So first I have Jenifer Mills. She's with HFC Interiors here in Atlanta. And then Whitney Ray. She's with Wyeth Ray, also here in Atlanta, Wyeth Ray Interiors. And Lathem Gordon and Cate Dunning, and they're with Gordon Dunning. And all of their entries, as I said, they're on display here. We're just doing a continuous loop, but you'll see some of their award-winning entries and the name of the design firm that won the awards. So I wanted to sort of take this in bits and start with the pre-submission and then the submission process itself, and then get into post-submission and what you can do afterwards. So my first question for the panelists is, how do you go about deciding which projects you think are going to be, judge-worthy or magazine-worthy or whatnot? How do you, pick which projects you want to enter? Do you? Anybody want to?
You do it.
Jump in?
You do it.
You start. I mean, aesthetics are obviously a
Right.
part of the game. That's the world that we're in. But when we're submitting for publication or awards, I think the bigger question then is there a story there?
Right.
We've all done projects where maybe they weren't as rich in story, but they were beautiful. And maybe we submit those too. But the ones that we spend the most time and really try to focus on are those that have a good story to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do tend to be our favorites.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
Right.
because they have story and then they ended up good.
Right, right.
I think too, we kind of take a look at the photos that are eligible in the time frame. of the years for that submission. And we're trying to look at things through the lens of, okay, these judges are from out of state. They know no context about our project. They don't know anything about, I mean, sometimes about us, maybe not. But what is a dynamic photo? What are the room settings look like? How is it going to capture their attention, having known nothing about the project? So that's kind of a lens that we look through things when we're trying to find
Anything,
photos.
Whitney?
We're similar too. We kind of start with a pool of all of the available photography that we have to offer and then go through the eligibility guidelines. So there's going to be a timeline. So maybe the project had to be, I think it was 5 years, completed within 5 years. Sometimes there's location requirements. But you kind of get down to your available photography, and then I like to pull the photo that is probably going to be the first thing the judges see, so like your wow photo, and like put those all up against each other and see which one stands out most to you, and find the category that coordinates to that.
And also you'll see too, there's so many different areas that you can submit for. So if you've got a project that's got, you knew it was a dynamic bathroom or a primary suite, it's just good to have some multiple areas that you could submit for maybe one project. So.
Right, and we do have a lot of areas, and we do contract design as well as residential design. And one thing I sort of forgot to say at the beginning is we have a pool of judges. We're very careful to make sure that the judges don't know anything about the project or who has done the project. They're assigned a number. It's very anonymous. And we make sure that all the judges are from out of state, because we don't want there to be any bias at all that maybe an in-state judge might recognize a project or a designer. So we have judges from, coast to coast. Last year there were 2 from California, 1 from New York, 1 from Chicago, Minneapolis, just all over. And so that really helps in keeping the process very pure. And then if you've won, you've really, there's a cross-section of judges from all over. And a lot of them have different styles, and we do try to mix that up too, and we've tried to get a couple of architects, 2 or 3 interior designers, we have a couple of design editors, so we try to get a good cross-section. Okay, so my next question is, what do you think are the key elements? This is a big one, but what are the key elements that you feel capture a judge's attention?
I think a lot of it has to do with the actual meat of the project, since these are architects and interior designers and other professionals. That's what's kind of fun about getting an award from anyone.
Right.
Well, not anyone, but any that are being judged by your peers.
Right.
It's kind of like a SAG award. It's like you actually, pretty pictures can be staged, but then when you tell the story and you tell what went into it, what the challenges were, then there's a lot of oomph to the accolade. It feels like, I actually won that. Like, that's legit. We did that. So I think that's something really important.
Yeah, and you can't do that without a wow photo or 2, of course, but it can't just be the wow photo necessarily either.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think kind of jumping ahead to maybe one of your next questions or down the road is the narrative too. You've got to have. Very important. We're so lucky to have a great wordsmith on our team that just generates some great text, which is great. But that's important because you are telling the story again to someone who doesn't know you and doesn't know anything about the project. So I think that's important.
I think the way that you show your photo's story too is so important. Just like you reveal it through a story that you're reading, you're revealing it like with your first photo to your second to your third. So the first photo really needs to be, like I said, that wow moment, that thing that's going to completely make them stand up and take a look.
Yes.
And then from there you can go into different perspectives and detail shots and whatnot, but you have to have that first initial shot that really tells the story of it, the whole space within the photo.
Right.
And then go from there.
That sort of draws them in. Well, that's, I'm glad you all have mentioned the narrative, because that is also a big part of our awards, and most awards in general, is you have to submit it varies by award, but we have a certain word count. You have to talk about what is this project, and you don't need to give away any names or anything, but what were the challenges? Was this a family? Was this a couple? You read a lot of very interesting backstories, as I call them, when you do these awards. So do you do these yourselves? That's my interesting question, but do you, they take a while. They take a little while to put together. So do you have somebody on your staff, or do you do these yourselves?
I mean, I'll go full disclosure.
Okay.
I don't do them.
Yeah.
But and I'll tell you why.
Oh, that's good.
I'll tell you
That's
why, because at the beginning of the
Yeah.
submission, I look at it and I glaze over. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit like, whoa, that's not, yeah. But I'm gonna.
There are a lot of rules. Yeah.
There are a lot,
There are
of,
a lot of
rules.
rules.
So I'm just lucky and blessed to have people on the team that
Yeah.
that's their thing. So we don't hire that out. We have it in-house. But I think some of you guys.
We have a PR person that we work with on and off, but Lathem wouldn't say that, but this is Lathem's baby and has been our entire existence. So I usually kind of come in, I'm an editor.
Yes.
And in anything that we ever write, I add the quirk that you'll notice on Instagram. If it's like well written and like poetic, then Lathem did it. If there's something misspelled or a comma missing or like it's kind of weird, then it's me. So sometimes we'll have that add to it, but Lathem does do a lot of ours, and we have a hard time delegating it because of all the details.
Yeah.
Unless when we do work with a PR person, we have a questionnaire that we fill out when we originally give them a project that has all the details. So we still got to give all that stuff
you have to feed the
for them to be able to take it to a magazine,
Right.
to take it to an award submission or something like that. So I think there's still a lot of work that you have to do.
Yeah.
But the actual typing it in, I mean, I had to have Lathem for the login. She does a lot of work to make sure that this is right. And I go, yep, that's great.
We work with a firm as well, and the Cultured Sphere, whoever you are, love you.
Where is she?
But what I love about them so much is how they collaborate with us. I mean, it's not them putting together our award package. It's, very much a process that we do together. We select all the photography together. We go back and forth. We give each other notes. They help with the summaries. Thank God, because I don't like to write either. And but yeah, I think it's important to have that second set of eyes on things. I think that with our projects, they're like our babies, and we've been working on them for so long, and you can no longer see flaws that other people, or you think something is so special because you work so hard on it, but no one can tell,
Right.
Because it's
Right.
So I think having a second set of eyes that's like, yes, that detail in that corner is really special, but let's focus on what you can actually see in the photography. I think it's been great.
Yeah, that's interesting. The summary is important, and like I said, the backstory. So there's typically a word count for that. But when you're, because we get all kinds of, sometimes very short. But how do you decide which details, to write about and which things to leave out? Because you can't just write, a book about the project. So where do you draw the line? I mean, how do
We
you
talk a lot about the technical.
Yeah.
We get really into, because you see this beautiful photo, you're like, "Right, was that like that? And you put a sofa in there? Did you work with existing pieces? Did you work with existing architecture?" So we are both firstborn, and we like a big old star. We like an A on our paper. So we're like, look, even though that's a really pretty picture, like this is what we did to make that happen. Because we don't include before and afters in the in a submission, but we want to explain that via words.
Yeah, I've had better luck. So I like to write the facts first. So I know you guys like to write a story, and you're very romantic and beautiful in that way. But I like to write the facts. And, what are the, down to the nitty-gritty facts. And then maybe pick 3 kind of storytelling points, and you don't have to write it in a paragraph form. Like you can do 3 bullets of 3 mini stories. In some ways, it's easier to get to 100 words, when you do kind of limit yourself in that way, and you're not trying to put it all together into one story. You can pick 3 mini stories, and I think that's been super helpful for us.
I think too, it kind of goes back to picking the projects that have a story, or that have something that's interesting enough that's going to translate.
Or a challenge.
Or a
maybe.
challenge. I mean,
That seems to be
those always are the ones that are closer to your heart.
And COVID gifted, it's going to be interesting to see how projects evolved our submissions, because all of our projects had a huge hurdle
Right.
Yeah.
during the COVID times and the after
Yes.
COVID times of the just all the stuff. Y'all were there. It was great. that was kind of added a story to everyone, even if they didn't have
True.
one.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how many we think are.
Yeah, that 5-year submission eligibility was
Yeah.
kind of an interesting time frame.
Yeah.
And that first year or two, almost every submission that came in, it seemed, had something about the challenge
COVID.
of getting
Yeah.
things in because of
Yeah.
COVID,
Yeah.
all the design challenges. So now, we all know how important photography is, of course. That's huge to a design competition. So I wonder, do you all use the same photographer for all of your work mainly, or not, and why, or why not?
Y'all go ahead, and then we'll say.
Yeah, so we use different photographers. We do have our go-to. We love Jeff. But I think actually in the submission, the 3 projects that are up, it was 3 different photographers, and each was chosen for a completely different reason than the next. Emily Followell shot the lake house, and she does such a beautiful job with light, and we knew that house needed her eye on it. I also think that if you know where your photography is going or where you're trying to get it to go, if you want it published or if it's going into a certain award category, shoot it with that lens, and the photographers are going to enhance your design. They're not going to fix it, but they're going to enhance it. And they all have a different lens. So if you're trying to go for a little bit more of ethereal or softer or more traditional, you go this way. And if you're trying to go edgier and moodier and darker, you go this way. And I think it's really important to study where you want it to go, where your goal is for it to go, and what photographers that outlet uses often. And then back into what's best for your project specifically.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the heavy hitters and the big players, especially if you're in Atlanta, so you know the good photographers. And obviously if you feel like a project warrants that, then, because photography is not cheap.
No.
So that's, you want to use the go-tos. But for ours, we use kind of some unknowns as well, but we kind of consistently use over and over again because they just know how to shoot, especially our multi-jobs. So.
Yeah, you get to know them.
Yeah. We also,
We sleep around.
we sleep around. That's what I was like, yeah.
You sleep around?
But in the same, like, what photographer is going to fit, like Whitney mentioned, and scheduling, that matters too.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we're both on this panel, even though I'm definitely a supporting actor, because I'm going to brag on Lathem here, or I'm going to make fun of you, one or the other. So whenever we're starting a project, or like from the get-go, like we meet the client, she's like, so that's where we're going to shoot. That's where we're going to shoot. So I care about who the client is, and Lathem cares about the photos. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. So we're thinking like who's going to shoot it from the very beginning. Yeah. But that's what feeds our children. So.
And kind of what the angles are too. That is part of the consideration. The number one is who lives there and their whole story and all that. But, there are certain angles that you're like, that's the first shot when you're submitting for award submission, what have you. And that's the one where you're like, I'm not going to make any sacrifices. If the client's fighting us on this, we're going to try to really succeed on this one. If they're fighting us on this corner and we're not going to shoot it, they can have it.
Sometimes I say that to the client. I say,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Oh, yeah, that's
I'm
right.
not going
That's
to shoot
good.
that corner.
I think that's an excellent strategy. I love that you do that. That's
It
they're
makes
like,
them
oh,
think,
you
oh,
really
that
don't
must be
like
bad.
it. Okay.
But in all seriousness, considering, to Whitney's point, where you want it to go and what you want the spirit of that home to be conveyed as, so that's true. And different photographers have different niches. They some do certain ways better than others. Not to say the other ones can't, but sometimes we'll lean towards somebody other than.
Right.
And back to there's a lot of great, amazing photographers here in Atlanta and in the Southeast. We're often looking at Instagram, like, who shot that?
Oh, yeah.
That's another way to get the right person.
Right. So what is this is another big question, but your best tips for showcasing a room or a space? Do you have a certain, like your signature or your kind of secret sauce for, making a room look really kind of magazine worthy, award winning worthy?
We try to make sure that we include signs of life in what we've done, whether that is flowers, that's a rumpled something, that it doesn't look sterile. if we have a more modern project, that might look a little different. But in most of our work, I feel like there's a lot of layers. And so kind of highlighting those and making it look like we didn't just move in today,
Yes, looks
but
lived
someone
in.
is in that space. So I think that's a big consideration for us. I love a 1-point perspective. That's one of my favorites. And we try to get that first. We'll get a 2-point if we need it. But
Yeah.
a 1-point is really one of my main
Yeah.
focuses.
I love that too. I think that's, the way I think about a house is coming, like when you go to meet a guest at the front door and working your way through the house. And I love nothing more than walking in the front door and immediately having that dramatic moment. So if I can get that, whether you have to walk through the foyer to get it, but something that draws you straight in and you have that, I don't know, that wow moment. I think that when you show that to the judges, they can feel that and they can feel how you're walking through the house. Because there's definitely parts that should be more intimate and parts that should be more dramatic. But I think that if you can kind of make the judges feel like they are doing a walking tour as you reveal the photography to them, I think it's so helpful. And I think that's how we design, is from the front door in.
Yeah. I think you also want to feel like you're in the space. I mean, I've got a great person on my team that said we create the photo, right? So not just take the shot. And I think that that's, you want to feel like you're actually in the space, and that's what translates, I think, to people finding it dynamic.
So that would be your advice. If you had to give advice to people maybe who have wanted to enter a contest, but that, they have not done that, would that be some of your best advice, just to make a room feel lived in, to make the seem accessible?
Melissa reminded me again this week that shoot your solutions. That's a huge thing, I think, and I think that judges love to see that. So besides there being huge things like COVID, but every space has some kind of solution you had to come up with, whether it was a lack of storage or it was lack of, it's a small space or they have a big family, and how do you, there's something that you had to overcome in the space. So I think shooting your solutions and then being able to talk about it in your points is so important. We do such a good job of hiding things, and then we don't show like what's behind them, and you can tell someone there's hidden storage there, but they're not going to believe you if there's nothing to open and see. And we actually did that, and she was like, "That's such a missed opportunity." And I was like, "I don't want to shoot inside the cabinet," and but I think that shooting the solutions, and then if you can presumably teach the judges something, I mean, I feel like you're golden. I think that's a big deal. So have your wow moments, but then in the detail shots, show the work you actually did.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier about shooting smaller projects. I think, initially we're very trained, like if it's not a whole home, like, I don't know, do we invest in photography? Yes, because particularly related to awards, when we're talking about, there's all these different categories. There's just about just a kitchen. And you might wear a photographer out one day having to go to 2 or 3 homes, but it is worth it. You have to schlep a lot of stuff in to make those spaces be finished. It's worth it. I mean, because you've done all that hard work, and to have it not be photographed is kind of sad.
Yeah, I think that should be a takeaway for sure. I mean, I think I can't or just say it enough that the photography, just to document what you've worked for so many years. I mean, for us on the multi side of things, I mean, it's 24 months sometimes before we are even in the space photographing it. So it's really a labor of love, and you really want to invest the time and the money to get some good photography. So that's a takeaway for me. I remember when I learned that, I was like, wow, we have a lot of money we've got to invest in this.
You got to bake that into your fees, I think, getting the photography and into your time. That would be, I have a really hard time. It's magical that we are a team. We're very, very, very similar people. We have these little slivers of the outside of our Venn diagram that are different. And one of them is that I was overly told to eat my vegetables before I had my cookies, like way too much. So if there is an annoying client that is looking for an email and she's written a novel and I have to answer that before I can do PR. That doesn't make any sense because it's still work. Lathem is very good at saying this is still work and carving that out. We noticed something with our accountant in the last few years. She has an out of office that goes off during tax season. It's like, this is a crazy time. It's going to take me a minute to get back to you. So a very tangible tip is to carve out the time. And if you are like me and also feel like you have to do the unfun stuff before you do the fun stuff, then give yourself put up an out of office on the day that you're doing doing photography and say, we're out on a shoot, we'll get back to you, or something like that, and make sure you're setting it apart time, because our industry is visual, period. If you don't take pictures of it.
I mean, yeah, like you said, like no one's going to believe you that that's behind the cabinet.
Yeah,
if you don't
which is another thing too, we learned last year, if you have a client that doesn't want you to take photos of their home, I mean, it's, it's just,
Yeah.
it's so special to work through all the problems and the challenges and then actually get this beautiful product, and it's very unfortunate. So that's kind of a deal breaker a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's in our agreement that they have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to
and
bake it
Is
into
it
your
really?
You have to
Yeah.
have it
That's
for the
in-
portfolio.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, photography should be the last step. So, you have all of the different phases of the design. You have your proposals, you have your installs, then you should have your photography, and then there should be a documentation process so that you have it ready to submit for awards, or if a publication asks, or, it shouldn't be in theory, we've all done it, but the night before, like up to 3 minutes before the
last thought,
deadline,
yeah.
in theory, you should be able to, do the photography right after you install, or wait until, whatever point it is you have to. But then take the time and put together a very general documentation, put together the best photos, put together the bullet points, and just have it sitting there waiting.
Oh,
And
that's a
then
good thing in theory.
Yeah, in theory. And, but it can just be, part of, in theory.
Yeah.
Like,
Good
you do
plan,
the
though.
install, you do the photography, you do the documentation, then you put it away and you do something else.
I feel like that's where the PR is really helpful.
Right.
Because there's somebody going, this is due tomorrow.
Yes,
And
exactly.
if you don't do this, I have nothing to sell, so what are you
Oh,
doing?
no.
doing?
I'm saying that because before then, that didn't happen.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's very
That is
important.
very much cookies.
And you do have to focus on the small spaces too, because, we even have categories like the most creative use of tile, or the most creative use of, glass or ceramic or something like that. So, even projects like that can be really worthy of an award if you capture it correctly. I mean, that's, so.
Yeah.
So now after after you've won an award, as I said, savvy designers will really take that and use it to catapult their careers, and they'll boost their, maybe gain new clients or enhance their portfolios, things like that. So how have each of you been able to capitalize on your design wins since last year? Have
And
you-
we tag it on our web. We have like a small narrative
Yeah.
at the bottom of our portfolios where it'll say like what awards it won.
Yeah.
But as I was thinking about these questions, I'm like, we need to make like a bigger deal out of that. So I think we also talk about it on Instagram a lot. And those photos get more attention for sure. And when, we repost and use all the hacks and the things that you're supposed to do on your social media. But maybe we need a badge or something.
A little badge, a little
A
shiny
little
thing.
something that's like, we won
That
it.
blinks.
Yeah.
Not tacky. We'll think about it.
Okay. Sorry. I knew you jumped straight.
Yeah, I think the same. I mean, definitely as soon as you win, you like blast it out there as much as you humanly can. But something I think that is so important, and it's almost the gift that keeps giving, you can do it for so long, is anyone who is a collaborator on the project, give them a dedicated shout out post. They'll in return they will repost it. But also, I feel like just garnering that respect from different outlets, not just, the contractor and the architect obviously are very important, and you should do that, but also the textile companies or the custom rug companies, all those kind of things, because in return, they'll remember that, and you'll get invited to more events, and, there's been trips that we've gone on that, this is a good one. So Sub-Zero Wolf, for example, we don't buy anything from them. I spec it all the time, but the contractors buy it all. So if they were to go into their annual sales reports, we don't exist. But I've done so much. And, but because we are really good about, always talking about them, if they invite us to something, we post it, we're on the radar in that respect, as well as just like in the showroom. So I've been on some amazing trips. I've made some amazing contacts through those trips. They've even referred work to us, and again, I think it's because what you put out there after you win an award and sharing it with everyone who touched the project is so important. I think it comes back to you. It might not be immediate, but I think it comes back to you in the next couple years.
Yeah. Well, I think anything publication related or awards related is a long game in terms of your return on investment for a future client. And we say all the time, we're curators of other people's talents. You know, I mean, and goods. And like you said, giving that credit, because you can't sell from an empty cart. You know, we've got to have these relationships, and we genuinely care about these people, and they have saved our butts so many times, and they are like friends and members of your team. And so giving them credit, yes, is the right thing to do, but it does also, you know, benefit you in the long run.
I think too, speaking back to the longevity, I mean, the project that we won the gold for, we shot 3 years ago, and then kind of pitched it out, and no one picked it up. And then when the awards came, we were like, I mean, it's a great project, and it's got great photography, and it's a beautiful space. And we just lobbed it out there. I mean, you know, we obviously did all the submission forms and stuff, but not even thinking anything about it because nobody picked it up 3 years ago. So it's almost that it is a long game, right? But at the same time, this is what we're doing. We're trying to get clients. We're trying to get more business. So yes, submitting and doing all these things, it's just part of the game that you really have to play. And but in a good way. I mean, because you're getting the notoriety, you're getting the recognition, and you can capitalize on it big time. So.
Do you know have any of you gotten a new client? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
I don't
Not
know.
yet. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Who knows?
maybe. And I don't even
But
know
it's just
they
out
know.
there. You don't know.
You know,
I mean,
often, yes, it showed up on y'all's
Right,
Instagram,
that's right.
and so someone started following
Yeah, it
us.
shows
and
up
3
on
years
so many-
later,
yeah.
like, I don't know, I
You hear
started
from
following
them.
you on social media.
Yeah,
so-
people often say like, you've been on my radar for a while,
Right.
and so it all contributes
Yes.
to it. Yeah.
Where I think
Long
that
as
we
you
have the
behave.
most influence is with past clients. Like, they love when we win.
Oh.
And they love to tell their friends. And they're
It was
also,
a gift. It was a Christmas gift from one of our
yeah.
clients to his wife.
Oh,
Like we
that's sweet.
had to make us something for him to be like, look, you worked hard and you did this. I mean, we did it, but that's okay.
Well, if you ever look on our Instagram when we post something, it almost looks like we've paid someone to say nice things, but it's like our hype men of past clients.
Yes.
Yes.
Because they like jump on immediately. They're so excited.
Yes.
And so I think that, and we're referral based, you know, most of our clients come from referrals. So them telling their friends that my designer just won this fancy award is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of to wrap things up here, if you had to give, you know, a piece of advice to the people sitting here, maybe that have not, as I said, haven't entered a contest, maybe thought it's too much trouble, or, you know, I never win, or whatever the reason is, what kind of advice would you give them? Somebody that maybe is interested, but they just haven't.
I would say
Taking
just
the
do
plunge.
it. I mean, just like, I mean, honestly, it's a little laborious just to kind of get pull it all together and get all the documentation for the submission, but I mean, just do it, because I don't know, you just don't ever know, and it's really a way to kind of catapult yourself to get some exposure.
Yeah. I mean, I think professional photography and timing is a lot of it. And it's a different set of judges every year.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if you don't win this year, maybe zhuzh her up and send her again next year. She
Right.
might win next year. You just don't know.
Yeah.
So being persistent in that way too.
Yeah, it's true. We've done that before. We didn't win one year. I think we changed like 2 sentences, resubmitted, won the next year. You know, it's a different set of judges every year.
Yeah,
So
they don't know.
Yeah, they're more your vibe
the
this year. or
same way I
whatever.
might love something and you hate it, or vice versa.
yeah.
I mean, it just happens. So if you lose, just, you know, that means you got to do it again.
That's actually good to know. I'm like,
Wow.
I should
Same with
resubmit
publications.
Any ideas?
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, same, shoot your shot and carve out the time to do it. And make it a compelling event. If you haven't shot something and you need to shoot it by that time, or
Yeah, we recently shot something. We just put it on the calendar, and it was an absolute nightmare to get it done in that amount of time. But we did it, and now it's done. But it was a torturous week, but it's done now.
Well, what made it torture? I mean,
It's just there was so much to do for this photo shoot, and because
the
it was
clients were using it as a compelling event as well.
Yes.
But they never got to it. So the week before, sorry, go ahead.
No.
Yep, that's the whole story. Basically, the client, dear wonderful clients we've been working with for 10 years, and they're like, we really want to get the next layer 6 months before the design. And what they were talking about was art and things like that. And And so we're like, great. Can you guys meet this? Nope. Okay, can we meet? And so what happened is we met a week before, and they're like, we want to do everything. And we're like, great. She's flying up next week, so we're going to do everything. And
We called Huff Harrington and we're like, we need these 17 pieces of artwork. We called English and we're like, we're coming to pick up these pieces.
And Beth, let's give a little shout out for Beth, who made it all happen. And the photos came yesterday and look incredible.
It's all
No
worth
one
it.
can to see all that paint, so we'll have to write it up.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the number one, if you had to pick the biggest benefit of entering a contest? I mean, what would that be? Just
Exposure.
not necessarily.
This time we brought our husbands to the
to the
reception,
event.
and
Oh,
those
yes, to the
boys
gala.
thought that we were amazing. Because they just don't know what we do all day. Like Lathem and I always say, we're like,
Yeah.
you're the only one who knows what hell I go through, and she says
Yeah.
the same to me. Like, even our we call each other day spouses and our night spouses. Like they don't get it. My mama doesn't get it. Like my best friends don't get it, and they got it. So that was kind of fun.
Good, yeah.
They thought you were a celebrity.
I'm glad.
That was fun for me.
I'm
It was
glad.
fun.
It was
It was
great,
fun.
Tony.
Yeah.
So fun.
No. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else.
I mean, I think the credibility, I think you're
Yes.
right. I mean, that's huge. Having,
Yeah.
when you start your company, it's like, hi, my name is Whitney, and I'm an interior designer, period. And then, you slowly get more things under your belt, and then you can say, hi, this is my name, this is what I do, and here's proof I'm successful. I mean, it's a big
Yeah.
difference.
Somebody likes it.
Between
Yeah.
the beginning and the end. So I think that you work on your bio and your website, and you build that first, and once you get that to a good place, you can start strategizing on social media in so many different ways, and
Right.
getting creative about get-togethers and how you can connect people and who touched the project that won. Anyone who touched it should be some kind of outlet for you to reach out to. So
And also, of course, if you win, you can submit to a magazine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
too.
your winning entry might get featured in a magazine
Yeah.
as
True.
well.
True.
So
Yeah.
that's another benefit. So I wanted to open up the floor the last 15 or so minutes to any questions that you might have for our panelists, and just feel free to ask anything. Oh. Oh. Oh.
Now I am. We're videoing today, so I want to put everything on.
So I have a question about who pays the bill for the photography.
Ah,
Because
that's
we
good.
know it's all expensive, so.
Yeah, and
But I
That would
thought
be
I heard
us.
you say something about putting it into your fee.
Yeah. So we
Just considering how much that will be is part of the service that you're providing them.
Right.
And part of that is that you're professional enough that you would be shooting it, that you would be submitting it, that kind of thing. So
No, it's
a
not
line.
spelled out in our proposal because, I mean, if I'm a client and I've just met you, I'm like, I'm gonna pay for your photography. But it's the cost of doing business. So photography and our office, like the roof over our head, making sure the internet works, that's all at the same level. And as I'm saying this to you, I'm saying it to myself because those are cookies. That is cookies. Water is not cookies.
Right. But, and two, sometimes people will split the photography depending on maybe the GC or,
Yeah.
whoever else might have had a hand in it. And we ask a lot of the players if they want to split the photography, and that's hugely helpful, but it's on you a lot.
Yeah.
And that's just, you're investing in your business. So,
Just one other question about the client. Do all of your clients agree to it and you have it in your agreement, or?
well, we
We have it in our agreement that we can shoot for our portfolio, but not necessarily for publication. I think that's, in my opinion,
and
I think
that's
that's on
key.
them to decide. They can say they're anonymous, they can be, we can pull back as much as possible, but we can at least shoot for our portfolio.
And that's something that we learned. I mean, because we did a girl in our office did a great project that was, 18 months long, and it was beautiful. And we thought for sure the client would let us get it photographed, and they didn't. And she kind of set that up at the maybe midway through the project, and it was like, wait, what? What are we doing? I mean, it was very unfortunate. So now we know, and now we know to speak that language and have it in our document, in our contract. So.
And we talk about it a lot too, because just because something is in your agreement doesn't mean it's very fun to enforce. Is at the end, I mean, like Whitney was saying, we're referral based, and this is all about relationships. I mean, that's one of the reasons we all do this. So to go at the end of a project and be like, we're gonna shoot it, and they say no, and you go, yeah, we are, okay, great. Now, where is that going? Now we're gonna be in your house, uncomfortable, running around trying to get flowers out, and you're annoyed, and that doesn't really work. So just, we just talk about it along, and it's in our agreement.
Yeah.
And they have to initial that part. We have like 3 or 4 spots that people don't like to read, or they just scan over, that they have to initial.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So I heard earlier one of you guys say something about before photos, that you don't submit before photos. So my question would be, is that something people do? And do they judge off the before and afters?
Typically, no. We just have the final, because you only submit a very few,
Right.
And other competitions may do something a little differently, but typically the photos are capped at like no more than maybe 6 or so. So, you just,
Show it in its
you
best
want to
light.
show the very end product. I mean, that's, so, no
And then
befores.
one more question.
Yeah, sure.
I heard you mention if it's put in the magazine when the winners,
Yes.
and you were saying you may get it put in another magazine. Is that?
Well, I mean, I was kind of tongue-in-cheek saying, our magazine for sure. When we solicit these submissions, we are probably, if, you're won first place, we may end up featuring that at some point in the next year or two. I mean, we're just a quarterly, so it may take a while, but, some of these first place entries definitely.
But is it okay to publish in another magazine?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we don't
One
own
thing
the-
that's great, we just talked about this, Fran,
Yeah.
which is so great about the Georgia Design Awards, is there's not any downtime between when they announce the winners at the event and getting the magazine. Literally, I mean, the magazine's outside in the hall when you walk out. And other contests are more so you can't submit your photography anywhere else while you're waiting for your award to be published, because they don't want your photography everywhere else, and that makes perfect sense. But there's no downtime with the Georgia Design Awards, which is so nice.
Yeah, one thing that's a little different about our design awards is our entire issue for the winter issue is devoted to the winners. I mean, that's the bulk of the issue, or the
Yeah.
gold, bronze, or gold, silver, and bronze winners. But then, on top of that, we might choose to even do a larger story on, a winner. Like maybe in a future issue, we might want to take, like, let's say somebody had a beautiful kitchen, we might want to see pictures of the rest of the home, and it ends up being a big feature, so.
And that's a huge thing too. I mean, if you're just kind of starting out and you're trying to get some notoriety and some exposure, to have it be already in print, I mean, that's super cool, and that's just something that you can feel really proud of. So that's another benefit, obviously, to submitting to the awards, is that you, especially with them, you get that satisfaction right away. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm in a magazine.
And related to publication too, there are, and this is not true with Georgia Design Awards, but some of the awards things that we submit to, it can't have been published previously. So if it's been published, you're just X'd out of those. And so getting it an award prior to it going to be shopped out for publication is sometimes the order of events you kind of got to go into.
Any other questions?
Yep, okay, I'm coming to you.
So I have a multi-part question regarding the timing of the photos. So these projects, can take a long time to complete. So I guess, are you not posting progress pictures of any kind along the way to keep it all completely under wraps? That's question number one. And then question number two, if you don't win and then you want to resubmit for another year, you're still keeping these pictures under lock and key until you decide?
It depends on the competition you're entering. So that's why they usually put the eligibility guidelines first when you're reading through all the fine print. That makes us glaze over a little. So it's really important to read that and see if they have any kind of embargo on the photography that you're putting in, because it might say you can't have this anywhere else, or it might say nothing about it, or that it doesn't matter for these outlets. So I think it's important to read that. On the What was the first part of your question?
Well, about you
Progress
posting
shots.
progress
Progress
photos.
shots.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we
We
do
post
that,
progress
but
like
very
crazy.
simply.
Yeah, I think you
We-
want progress photos.
Progress photos are great. I wouldn't post your final photography before you shoot, get things published, or editors aren't gonna like that. But, you can do progress photos for sure that are more casual. Maybe not the whole room. Like, don't give away the grand reveal.
Yeah, but just
Yeah.
little snippets. I mean, the project that we won the awards for, we had it shot 3 years ago, and then no one picked it up, and then these photos were like under lock and key because we didn't know if we were going to submit it again for another publication, and then you feel like, oh my gosh, I've spent all this money and I can't do anything with these photos. So, yeah, it's a challenge, but I do think you want to snippet out some photos for sure all along, but maybe hold your professional photography until you kind of know that you either want to get published or you're going to try and submit for an award. But
Yeah, we'll do a lot of snippets, and then, like, on photography day, for example, we might get tights of the florals with some details, or a little pan of something, just to kind of give a final without revealing the big.
We'll do stories too, so they
Yeah.
go away. And then, I mean, we do, if something is just like in the vault for too long, it's like, you know what, I like it.
yeah,
Let's just tell people about it, or so eventually, because something that's difficult is that when you're told no from publications over and over, you feel like it's not good. But
And that's not always true.
that's not always true. It has to
Right.
fit into the editorial calendar. And then one time we got told no because we had been in the magazine too much recently, and I loved that reason. It was like, it's kind of turning into the Cate and Lathem show. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. So if it's time to just start bragging on yourself on the internet, that's okay.
Yeah, if it sits too long, then it's just your portfolio. Just pump it out. It's what'll make somebody want a project later.
And we do a lot of progress stuff, not as chicly and beautifully as Whitney does. You may notice that we're not. So it's usually like a progress. We found a bowling ball on one of these projects on the job site. Like, why? It was probably 7 months into construction, and there's a bowling ball. Like, it's not like it was found. Someone brought it there, and so we did like a whole story on that. Just fun.
Yeah, totally
I hope
related.
you put it in a box, like in a shadow box.
That's
put it
what
on
we
the
should have
bookshelf.
done.
framed it.
Not sure whose
I think
it
we
was.
just kicked it around.
I don't know. I don't know where it went. I don't know.
Why did we not do that?
I don't know.
It's a wasted opportunity. Next time.
Any other questions? Oh.
What kinds of items are you bringing in specifically for the shoot besides typically like the florals
Good
or
question.
fruit? Like what other items do you guys bring in?
We have a
on shoot
slew
day?
of stuff. I feel like
Yeah.
you guys know. I mean, a slew. I mean, obviously we love to have things that are alive. So I mean, we'll be even on our multi-jobs now because we know about the styling from our residential shots. We're cutting branches. We're putting them in. It's all a whole thing. But I think styling is so important. And either you hire a stylist or you've learned to kind of do it yourself. But I think props, but really good props, are really important.
Yeah.
Books, glasses.
Books, yeah.
Definitely alive things. Dogs.
We do a lot of soft goods. So, sometimes through the design process, the detail of the monogram napkin does not happen. But we have a wonderful person in our studio, Beth, who is a great monogrammer. And so that is the gift for letting us come shoot your home, is that you now have monogram napkins.
Yeah.
And so there'll be some touches like that come in, and those very customized details that maybe just they weren't into purchasing, or we didn't necessarily get to because of the scope of the job, or it wasn't part of the scope of the job at all. Sometimes we just do construction on a project and there's no furnishings, and so we're like, we're bringing a bucket
We
load
don't bring
of
like
towels.
a whole living room.
Right.
No. We don't usually do that. I will say we do. We make fun of Lathem. I just really love making fun of Lathem when there's an audience.
Thank you.
She'll pit bull on something in a design process. So she'll be like, they need this. Really, and they said no. Like they really said they don't
don't
like
want
it. And Lathem's like, well, they need it. So sometimes we bring that item.
Yeah,
Because
I do that too.
it's usually like a piece of.
Whitney knows.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, a lot of times if it's a 2-day shoot and they have to come home eventually. And they come home and they're like, oh, that looks really good now that I see it in the space. And then you don't have to pay for it to come back. And it looked really good.
But sometimes, I mean, occasionally, especially if it was an exclusively construction project, we're bringing in artwork. That's another big one. And just gallery relationships and artist relationships. We'll let us borrow them, and then we'll share photography and rights with them as a thank you for that. But then sometimes it sells to them to that same point.
Yeah.
Yeah, my business partner and I try to go in a couple days usually before the shoot, and he's much better eye for photography than I do. So he kind of helps me figure out what shots we're gonna do so I can see what's going to be in the shot so I can shop the next day. I try to stage the house the day before. I just find it so much less stressful. So I try to do floral the day before. I try to have a general plan so that when I show up, like we're ready to go. It's not like me and the floor like cutting floral and trying to tell the photographer what to do and doing all these different things.
That's admirable.
So,
Not how it goes.
I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It makes it happen less.
Yes.
But I think that being organized as much as you can within all of your other meetings and your other jobs and your other things you have going on in a couple days in advance helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's really smart.
We also clean as we go.
Oh,
So
gotta clean
when you finish one room, if you have someone on your staff that can help and like follow behind and put everything back together as you go through the house, it's so nice because at the end of the day, it's like, we're taught, hopefully, you clean as you go.
We
It's
take
important.
pictures, that's my job.
That's
I come in
Kate's job.
and document the home at factory settings. It's the first thing we do before we even start bringing anything in. And then I use those to put the remote exactly where it was. The child's random thing, I mean, the dog bone, exactly where it was.
Yeah, we know that too.
I really pride myself on that. Yeah. Well, we lost a remote
good.
once.
We did not. A stylist did.
A stylist
That was
did.
not us.
good.
It was football season. It was the track.
Oh, no, good.
It was found.
Any other questions? Is that it?
Nice. Okay.
Okay, well, again, I want to thank you all so much for coming today, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And I really thank these wonderful ladies here. And if you haven't had a chance to really look at their projects, I mean, these were all first place, really gold award winners. And I want to invite you to come to Suite 502 to the Milou Showroom. We're so excited to be partnering with them for our reception today. And thank you again for coming. Really appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Thank you.